Hi guys, it's Claris and welcome to another tutorial on Procreate. In this tutorial we are going to be doing something basic again. I want to show you guys how we can get a drop shadow and then also create some simple florals in a very easy manner and duplicate them. So I have my canvas open already. It's exactly like in the basics video. It's 1500 by 1500. It's a square space. And the first thing I'm going to do is I hit the tool button, I click on the add button, and I go add text. So let's make this like a monogram of sorts. So I'm going to click on C because my name starts with C. And then I'm going to click on edit style. And this is where I can adjust the size of my C. So I'm just going to make sure it's nice and big and pick a font that I like. So I like the serif fonts, so I'm picking something like this. Then I'm going to click on my arrow button, and this enables me to kind of move my C around. And I want my C to be black. Just as soon as I select my C, I can click on the color and then select black. Oops, nope, that is not black. So I'm going to go palettes and select my black right there. There we go. And we are good. So I have my C, I have the color that I want it to be. I'm just going to make sure that it's placed properly. And then now I'm going to go to my palettes. Let's delete the extra one right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my C, selecting the one on top and hitting on my selection arrow tool, and I'm going to move it ever so slightly to the right. And then I'm going to go back down. Now the colors are exactly the same, so it'll be hard to see. So it's up to you. You can select the top layer and just click on the arrow to kind of not see it, and then we'll go back to the bottom C, and if you just click on the actual C itself, you'll see a bunch of options that show up. Let's click on rasterize, and this makes it now a shape as opposed to a text layer. And once we have clicked on that, we're going to click on this squiggly, nope, not the squiggly, the wand, and then we're going to click on Gaussian blur. And we're just going to click and drag. And you see, this is how you know it's having an effect when you see this blue line appear. So this is what it's doing to this layer. It's giving it a blur. Now, this would help if we had our top layer on. So what I'm going to do right now is hit the back button to take away the blur. Go back to my layers, turn my top layer on. Now go back to Gaussian blur and do this. And so now you can actually see the nice fade that it gives us in the back, or drop shadow. So you can kind of move it to however much you want it to. I'll leave that up to you. I'm going to select up to this much and leave it this way. Okay, so we've created our C, and it is black in color, and we have the background or the drop shadow, which is right there. I want this drop shadow to be ever so lighter in color. So I've clicked on the layer where the N is, and now I'm going to click on this bar and go low. So as you drag the bar up and down, you can see it getting lighter and darker. So you decide where you want it to be. I'm going to select it to be right about here. And actually, while I'm on this stage, I'm even going to change the background color of this because I don't want it to be just white. So I am going to select my pink right here. And yeah, I think this is good for now. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create some florals to kind of go with the C and create a nice monogram. So I have made sure that the C's are invisible, and now I'm going to create a new layer here, rename this flowers or flower, because it's going to be one. And then we're going to go and hit the tool button right here and we're going to make sure that our drawing guide is set to on, and then we are going to click on Edit Drawing Guide. And over here, we're gonna click on Symmetry and make sure that this button Assisted Drawing is on, making sure that the thickness is to 100%, and that is for the guideline that we have right here. So if you go all the way down, you're not going to be able to see it because the thickness will be too thin, and then opacity, obviously, same thing. Then we're gonna click on Done, and we are ready to start our floral. So this is going to be the floral center. So I'm gonna pick a yellowish color that'll work well with the colors we have so far. So I'm just adjusting my yellow, and this line right here is like a mirror line. Making sure that I have the right brush selected. So I have selected inking and technical pen. And this is what's going to happen. If I create something, it is reflected on the other side. So we want to create the flower center first. So I'm just going to hit the backward arrow to kind of go back. And now we're going to create our center. Now it might take a couple of tries because you might not get it perfectly right the first time, and that's okay. We have something like this. Now I'm clicking the color and just dropping it in, and this is good enough for me. I can just perfect the edges a little bit here to the side, and that kind of reflects on both sides. So that's good enough for me. I'm good with this. So we're gonna stop doing this. We're gonna create another layer. And every time you create a layer and you want this symmetrical effect happening, or the mirroring effect, you need to make sure that you go on that layer, go back to your tool, go back, make sure everything is still selected, hit Done. And then when you see the line, when the respective layer is selected, that's when you know it's in effect. So now I'm going to select a color to go for the petals. So let's pick the teal, and I'm going to create some petals that kind of look, so I'm just selecting the thickness of the brush too before I start the petals. So I'm going to do petals that kind of do a little bit of a swoosh. You can kind of create petals that are more simple if you want just the simple ones like that. It's up to you. I'm going to try and be a little more artsy and get something like that maybe, but I want the petals to be bigger than the center. So we're going to go with something like that. Is that how it looks? Yes. Now you might have some issues in terms of making sure that it is symmetrical enough, but I say don't worry about that, because this can just be the style that you have happening, or that you're kind of going with. And it's all about getting practice in before you're able to, you know, start creating some pretty things. So it took me a couple of tries. I think I'm okay with this. And then I'm going to do one more this way. Doesn't quite look very right. I think this is, let's try this one more time. Something like that. Yep, I think this is, no, let's do it again, because this is biggest, then second, and then it looks like that one's super tiny. Better, much better. Okay. So now that I have the petals and I'm fine with them, I'm just going to select the color and click on there, drop it in there, and then immediately it kind of fills the whole thing up. So that's perfect. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to name this Petals Center. And I'm going to click on the center, just holding my finger on the center. I'm going to drag it over petals and leave it, and then it kind of groups the two together in a group. So now I'm going to click on this, rename it, and name it Flower, which is what I named the first layer. So making sure that the center is at the top, this is what that looks like. And we're just going to zoom out and we have our flower right there. Cute, right? So now what we can also do is create a couple of leaves that go with it before we move on and do decorate the sea. I think at this point, if we have the sea available, it'll be easier, and we're just going to select the flower grouping, click on the selection button, and we'll move this flower down here. I think this is good. And we're going to rename this new layer inside flower and call it leaves. And for the color of the leaves, I'm going to select, let's select, I'm going to select the gray right here. And here's why. No, you know what? I'm going to select the pink. Yeah, let's just select the pink for leaves. We're making this very, I'm still selecting the technical pen. We're going to make this very artsy as opposed to realistic. So making sure that my thickness is okay. We're going to go ahead and create some leaves that look like this. I'm going to do them right here. So super simple, just like almost like drawing an eye almost, and then selecting the color and just dropping it in and dropping it in over there too. And you can always perfect the leaf a little bit. And this way, this saves you time from kind of going in and painting stuff in. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. You just got to make sure that the drawing of the leaf is closed up properly, because sometimes it can be slightly open and then the color drop doesn't quite work, or even if it's super tiny. I don't like that placement, so I'm going to take that away. Place it over here maybe. Perfect. Okay, so we've got something like this, and I kind of like that different look happening over here. So now at this point, I'm going to create a couple of leaves that are white, but these are going to be a little more swirly in effect. And let's do them. For this, I'm going to use the Studio Pen, and I'm bringing it down just a tad. And we are going to create these little sprays almost that kind of go whoosh like that. But you know what? For the sprays, I'm noticing that the white isn't working very well. So we're going to select the black instead. And the other thing I'm going to do is show you how to get a nice dotted brush. So all we do is click on the brush again, and for spacing, go all the way down to the end, or maybe about 76%. And now when we create these little sprays, we're going to get something like that, which is really pretty, right? So we're going to do a couple of those, spraying back and forth in a couple of different areas, and give this a nice flowy feel. And if you notice, depending on how hard or how much pressure you kind of apply onto these little arcs that we're doing, you'll get thicker or thinner little dots. So I'm just trying to make sure I have a good enough flow with everything here. No, one isn't really needed there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think this is good enough. So we're going to leave it at this. And now again, I'm going to go back to my brush and go all the way down, because I don't want the little dots anymore. And at this point, we're just going to create a couple of leafy looking structures around, shapes around this, just like that. You can call them, I guess you can kind of compare them to droplets, maybe. So see, sometimes you need to really like zoom in and then drop the color in, and that's when it gives you that effect. So we'll create a couple of these here and there, and then we can finalize on how things look. So I'm not gonna keep this super long, but these were a whole bunch of basic things for you to kind of do and get used to Procreate. I haven't done too much, again, in hopes that you'll pick up what I'm putting out and then kind of do your own experimentation and practicing. So hope you guys enjoyed this. I am going to fast forward this section and then I'll show you what the final outcome is. All right, so this is what we've ended up with. And the last thing that I would suggest to do if you want to take this another level further is just kind of add a little bit of detail to the one single flower that we have right here. And so for that, I'm just going to add another layer on here right above the center, and you can call it details if you want to, and just select it back again. And I'm holding my finger down here to make sure that I get that right color. And then what I'm going to do is go to the value section and just kind of lighten up the color that shows up. And then making sure we have the right brush, this is good enough. I'm just going to add a couple of lines or maybe droplet looking shapes happening right in the center. Kind of add a little bit extra to this drawing. Now, because I didn't pre-plan this whole thing, we are doing this after the fact with the symmetrical feature that we started off in the beginning. Had I planned the centers earlier, we could have absolutely done these there and it would have probably saved a lot more time. But I just felt like adding a little bit extra, and I hope you guys don't mind. So just adding a little bit of these fancy touch-ups, and I feel like it kind of goes nicely with the leaves that we have. So sometimes this is how artwork evolves. Most of you artists know how that happens. Sometimes you kind of plan for something and it doesn't quite turn out that way, and something else entirely different stems from it. And that's exactly what's happened here. And then finally, for the absolute center of it, selecting that yellow, and I want to select a very lighter or a lighter version of this yellow. And I'm just going to go to the center here and do just like circular dots all around. And almost done. I've got some of these just on the edge as well, so I'm just kind of adding a little bit to the edge. There we go. Perfect. I love it. So hope you guys like this as well. Let me know in the comments what you think. Now, I did mention something about duplicating. So before I end off completely, I want to show you how we can duplicate this. So remember, we have our florals in this folder right here. All we need to do is swipe to the left and we can hit duplicate, and that duplicates the whole thing for us. So right now they're placed on top of each other so you don't see it, but if I hit my selection tool, here we go. We have a duplicate version of this, or we've duplicated that, and we can just maybe place it somewhere else onto the C if you want another floral right there. There we go. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, guys. Let me know in the comments what you thought. If you're new to this channel, please feel free to subscribe and like this video and share it in your social media channels as well. Let me know what you want to see more of, and I'm happy to oblige. But right now we're keeping it very basic with Procreate and trying to get acquainted and accustomed and creating some super fun stuff with it before we can move on to harder stuff. Thanks guys for watching, and send me your work, tag me in your work. I would love to see it on social media and probably even share it in my stories if you can. Thanks guys. Bye.